It's best seen on the ground. It's best seen by walking the area. It's only about a half a square mile. It's very accessible from the centre of Nottingham. Much of the area is in use. It's part of the Nottingham regeneration area, and there's a lot of creative businesses moved in here recently with the support of Nottingham City Council. So it's an area that has been regenerated but is still preserving the feel of the original Victorian architecture. Nottingham City Council have an ambitious heritage strategy which incorporates the redevelopment and regeneration of the lace market. So there's a good future for the lace market based on its past, if that makes sense.
Merlin Coverley said that the city is a book to be read by walking the streets. Yet the city is very unlike a book. It cannot be closed and placed on a bookshelf. It is a living, breathing, evolving organism. To say the city can be read is to view the urban landscape in a way we do not normally see it. Reading the city is an exploration of the familiar in an unfamiliar way. We look for the fragments of history, the glowing embers that remind us that there was once a blazing fire. These remnants of the past are all around, from lampposts to archways, from street names to church graves. From these traces we can discover a world of history right in front of our eyes.
My name's Stuart Birch. I'm a lecturer in the History Department at Nottingham Trent University. Reading the city for me is very much history from below, and it starts with the individual. So I'm less concerned with this is history and this is important because the city authorities say so. That somebody's history might be that record store where they buy their vinyl, or it might be that pub there because it's a gay-friendly pub, or it might be a shop where they go to buy whatever, or it's a part of their lives. That for me is as much their history as something that's very, very old and very, very valuable or architecturally significant. I take the concept of reading to mean text, so that might be a street name or a plaque or an inscription on a pedestal, but you also read the environment in terms of thinking about the architecture or the spaces around you.
The buildings here were designed largely by T.C. Hine and built largely in the 1850s. The Adams building and the Birkin building date from about 1855. And they were worked on subsequent to that. They are quite unique and quite significant in terms of the building style and well worth a look at. They are very elegant, gracious buildings with decent stonework, good brickwork, obviously well designed, well built, and they've lasted until now. Testimony to T.C. Hine, I think.
If you were walking through the lace market now along Stony Street, and you might see there's a large college with a very nice frontage there, which is an old Adams building. So we would know it as the Adams building here. Now Adams were a manufacturer of lace, and they used those buildings as warehouses, just as any modern company would. So you could walk along the streets and look at the different architecture, and then you might think, well, when was that building made? Why was it created? Why are all the buildings in the lace market so tall? Why do they all look very similar? Why does the Adams building have a really, really nice frontage, whereas some of the others don't? So you could come to the archives and look at the plans and look at the records of those companies, and you would see immediately that the Adams company was one of the biggest companies in its field, and therefore they had more money. Therefore they made sure everybody knew they had more money by making very nice buildings, very grandiose buildings.
What we do here in this church is try to preserve the building itself and the type of service which we have here, for those who follow after us. We inherited this and it's our burden, but it's also our privilege to maintain. The main part of this church, the nave and the sanctuary, which lies beyond the screen there, was finished and opened to the public. The church that you can see in 1475, it would have been begun the better part of 100 years before then, so we're talking about 1380 when it began. But we can show you a remnant of the church that stood here before. It stands on the site of a Norman church. Bits were added as the time went on. The church is an organic thing, it grows, but the main bulk of the church is 15th century. The glass is mostly Victorian because the Puritans in the 17th century, they smashed all the glass and they smashed all the tombs and much of the alabaster, but the Victorians blessed them, replaced much of the glass, and the spectacular glass you can see now dates from about 1870. And the window at the bottom, the truly spectacular west window, is dedicated to Thomas Adam. He was a big lace merchant, and his family put that window there in 1876.
At Nottinghamshire Archives we have over 4 million documents related to the history of the city and the county as well. Our first document is dated from 1155, so that's older than Magna Carta. We're talking more than 800 years ago. That first document was the charter allowing the people of Nottingham to hold a market in the market square. Humans are very, very social creatures, and we haven't actually changed very much as a species over time. History helps you to understand who you are and who the people around you are, and why Nottinghamshire is the way it is.
Nottingham isn't just a book, it's a whole library, because there are so many different volumes that you could take down and read that particular aspect of that particular part of the city. It starts with the here and now, so it's as much a kind of a contemporary analysis. It's history as it's being made today. And if you start there and kind of delve down, it's like all the different layers. It's being like an urban archaeologist chiseling away and finding what's beneath the surface. So it's as much about now as it is the past, but the past informs the present because the layout of the streets, the buildings, what were on the spot where the buildings are now, looking around and finding plaques and statues, and finding out about who those people were and why they were commemorated. That's all happening now. So perhaps one way to think about it is it's less history and it's more heritage. Heritage is history today, it's the past in the present. And as soon as you think about that, then you realise that today impinges on the past. So if there's a historic environment or an old building, it needs to be managed and preserved, it needs to be safeguarded, because if it enriches our lives, we don't own it, we're custodians of the past, so we can use it, interpret it and make it part of our living environment, but we need to make sure that it's protected for future generations.
Reading the city helps to maintain our history. By discovering the past that surrounds us, we breathe a new life into our heritage. Engaging with the past is the best way to protect and preserve our historic city. So go out, explore, and peel back the landscape. Who knows what you might uncover?